Call the meeting to order. Our treasurer, John Riley, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I jumped the gun again. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Dave Abdallah.
Here.
Thomas Berry is absent. Robert Constant.
Here.
Lisa Hicks Clayton.
Here.
Margaret Horvath.
Here.
Joseph Kosinski.
Here.
Ray Muscat is absent. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The next item on the agenda will be the approval of the agenda for the September 26, 2017 meeting.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilwoman Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve the order of business September 26, 2017, regular meeting of the Dearborn Heights City Council as presented.
Second.
Second by Councilman Abdullah. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the September 12, 2017 meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kosinski.
I move that the council approve the minutes of the previous formal meeting of the City Council held on September 12, 2017.
Support.
Support by Councilwoman Clayton. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item on the agenda, item number 5, public comments on any pending agenda items. Does anybody in the audience have any comments on any items on our agenda? Any comments on any items pending on our agenda? Hearing none, the next item on the agenda, item 6, fund transfers and current claims.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilwoman Clayton.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the current claims, items 6-1 through 639, and this includes a correction to 615.
Second.
Second by Councilman Kosinski. And does everybody have the correction?
Yes.
Thank you, Denise, for that. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Abdullah.
So I had a question, and I'm not sure if this is, with this correction, there was a major change as far as the amount that's owed, and I'm just wondering for a little bit of a clarification, because in the email that we received, it says that we have the corrected amount, corrected copy that we received from Denise, but didn't say as far as what the scenario was and why there was a drastic difference. So I'm not sure if Council Gary
Mayor, is this
can
something
answer
that you
that?
would, or Councilman, or Corporation Counsel Gary, it's a bill from the attorneys for the...
Yeah, I think what happened, and the controller is here, not here. Yeah, what happened is, I think they picked up the wrong number because it's very close to last month's bill, and rather than what was the current amount, the $5,062. And I just think it's an accounting error.
Okay. Because it went from 1971 to 5142, so that's why I was, if it was a little amount, would have been as concerned, but I just wanted to make sure what the situation was.
Yeah, and 1971 was the amount for the last payment, so.
So it was just, okay, repeat, got it. And I had another question, or maybe clarification, on item, this is for Council Garamiati, on item number 26 and item number 33, unlike a lot of these claims, and I'm just wondering if this is protocol or not, they're not signed by an authorized, I know there's an authorized official, but is there somebody that would be signing that, or is that common to not have that signed right there?
Well, it's common not to because it's submitted from Corporation Counsel, and he's not here, so we can't get him to sign it before.
Okay. And that's sufficient?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
that's how we've done it in the past. That's 50 years or so.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda from Mayor Dan Paletko, purchase of Warren Valley Golf Course and Banquet Center.
Mr. Chairman?
Mayor?
I was going to have our corporation counsel give a update, and then if you want to receive, note, and file this, it would be appropriate.
Yeah, just
Go ahead,
a
Corporation
status
Counsel.
with regard to this. Our due diligence period under the original agreement was supposed to be concluded as of September the 30th. There have been a few items that have ended up taking more time than originally anticipated, although they do not appear to be material to whether or not the transaction should move forward. However, we have to make sure that they are fully investigated. One of them includes an environmental issue where there has to be tank tightness testing, and there's also a potential for a few other issues that need to end up being looked at that have to do with the assignment of the operating agreement. We need to end up having a little more time to sort out some of these things because some of the information that we had actually presented some stuff that was unanticipated. For example, the operating agreement was with one operator for 2 different golf courses, so now we have to end up coming up with an arrangement that's going to end up working under those circumstances, and we need additional time to work through some of these details. But I'm not anticipating that anything, like I said, is going to end up being material. It's like there was an issue about a suspected release from an underground storage tank. That tank had not originally ended up being registered by the county. They registered it, and then there was some odor smell from that, but the borings did not appear to be problematic. So these are things that just need to end up being looked into more thoroughly to make sure there's not an issue.
Councilman Abdullah?
So I had a couple questions. On the underground storage tanks, this is no longer used tanks, correct? From previous situation?
One of them.
Yeah.
One is still used. One of them has already been
What is it
has
used
been
for?
closed. I think it's used for fueling in terms
Fuel?
of the
Okay.
vehicles.
Yeah, fuel for the cars.
And the second question I had for you, Gary, if you recall, one of the issues that we had asked for the financials from the county, and we had not received them as of yet, as of a couple meetings ago. Have they provided those to us as of yet?
Yes.
And I know, Mr. Mayor, you had taken it upon yourself. You said you were going to also review them
Yes. I
from
would-
your, with your CPA background.
Yeah, last Thursday, I spent the entire morning and part of the afternoon reviewing with the operator the financials and also the operation. And so nothing significant came up, but we also had questions. The Plant Moran agreement we entered into, the person they're providing appears to be a golf course expert and knows a lot of people in the business. So consequently, we reviewed it. I think that the one item that I feel really good about, and that's the fact that when Gary and I had gone downtown before the Wayne County Commission meeting, one of the gentlemen, the fiscal advisor for the legislative unit for the county, I've known for a long time, he's a fellow CPA, and I approached him, we said hi to one another, and I said, the city's hoping that it can make, at least break even, if not make money. And in Gary, in my presence, he said, there's no way you can lose money on this agreement. He said, it's a great deal for the city, and he said, and I referenced that the county executive said they were losing money. And he goes, the county is not losing money. What we found out through our due diligence is the county gets the first $90,000. And so consequently, it does not lose money from a county standpoint. The risk is shifted to the operator.
The operator was losing money.
Well, I don't think, no, he's not showing, there were some years that money was lost, but the current operator operates it with entrepreneurial skills because it's his money. And so consequently, and because he's on site all the time, he looks for those little things. And the other idea was, I talked to him that I said, I think the banquet center and the golf course could be expanded and utilized if it was managed better. He totally agreed with me, and he outlined he'd like to make it in a full-time restaurant, have more outdoor type activities, upgrade the banquet. And so I walked away with the fact that I'm not expecting a loss from this operation. We're not going to get rich on it from the city, but I think we're going to protect our residents and the flooding at the same time. It wouldn't surprise me if we got $100,000 or more annually in revenue from the operations over there, just by what is there currently.
Yeah, the value in the land, there's no doubt about it, that's well worth $1.8 million. It's a steal. The concern was, as you are aware, whether you read the paper or you check with the Wayne County Commissioners, or sometimes we've heard things in here, you've heard different ideas as far as whether it was making money or losing money. But in your opinion, I mean, and for me as a council person, I can tell you, as long as it's at the very minimal, just breaking even, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Because now we're providing a service for the residents, and we're not a for-profit organization. If we make a profit, I mean, the merrier. But
yeah, and the difference is, this gentleman worked for Tory, but he said that Tory is a big organization, and this was just like one operation of many that they operated. So he said that one of the big problems is, since he's operating it, and bottom line, he has the exposure if he makes money or not, he's the guy making the decision. He said that when Tory was here, and as the accountant also told us the same thing, that a decision had to go up 5 or 6 levels of management. And he said that employees came up with suggestions, but it might take 6 months for somebody at the top who could make the decision institute it. And so they referenced that there was a huge loss in food simply because there wasn't good coordination between when activities were taking place and the purchase of food. He said, I couldn't incur those costs. So he said, I closed that up. So there's a direct correlation between when we purchased the food very closely to the amount of activity. And he said, I saved a lot of money doing that. And he also changed the arrangement with the carts, which the Plant Moran guy was well aware of and said I was going to suggest that if he wasn't doing it. And so basically he contracts out. The golf carts come from a third-party source, and it includes all the maintenance. And so consequently, it reduced the cost. And we talked about, as it came up in the debate yesterday, I think we have a pretty good arrangement now as to who owns what. And so I feel really comfortable with that, we're going to be able to operate it. There's a couple minor items that we got to deal with, and Gary and I have talked about it, like the liquor license.
Again, that's a joint liquor license between or the operator and the county. Chances are what we'll be looking at is doing a management agreement, but these details will have to be worked out. So there's additional time that has been necessary, and the mayor was very hopeful when we were at the meeting, and I was very hopeful. Then it was like, we just better make sure that we use the time, and because the county said we can give you an extra 30 days, and they've agreed to give us an extra 30 days.
So our deadline date is
October the 30th.
October the 30th?
Yes.
But we will be reserving with the council chair in about mid-month a date, and then we'll have a presentation open to everyone for all the environmental, financial, and legal in the survey. So we'll have a representative from Wade and Trim, representative from Plant Moran, and the environmental, I don't know if you can handle that, or we need somebody from the environmental.
It might not hurt to have someone.
So we'll have them all here, and then you can ask whatever questions, and then I would assume the following Tuesday you would vote on it. Based upon everything I've come across, and that's why we wanted to give you the update, but the last sentence in my letter, based on the information I have to date, I would expect to recommend that the city of Dearborn Heights purchase the Warren Valley Golf Course and Banquet Center for the price of $1,800,000. And I think it's a great deal.
We had talked about that we put out an RFP for a possibility of a new management company.
Let's take one transaction at a time.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, the county signed a 5-year lease with this operator. Before we start making any changes, I think we need to continue that. I think that's an item after we purchase it, we can review.
And
because
I would agree. I would rather not address that, especially in a public forum at this time.
Fair. Thank you.
So is this item a received note and file?
Correct.
Okay.
I wanted to give everybody in the public an update because I think everything's been very positive. I felt a lot better after Thursday's meeting and just a whole lot better. And I would not have, I kind of had an understanding that I thought we'd make about $90,000 to $100,000 a year on this. And now I feel more comfortable that that is the worst case scenario.
Good.
Mr. Chairman?
Hey,
We
Councilwoman
received note
Horvath?
and file
I have a
8A.
question.
Oh,
Well, go ahead and make your motion, and then it'll be supported, and then he can
okay.
ask the question.
I move that we receive note and file item 8A.
Second.
Second by Councilman Kozinski. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councilman
There was,
Kozinski.
Corporation Counsel indicated that there were 2 operations under a single person managing.
Under the operating
Yeah.
agreement, yes. It was both the Inkster Golf Course and the Warren Valley Golf Course.
One of the good things we found out, though, is that the personnel, he has full-time seasonal, part-time seasonal, they are segregated. Personnel do not go from Warren Valley to Inkster Valley or whatever it's called. The only person that will actually show up at both places is him, because he has that operating agreement that does both. So all the equipment also is separate. They don't take equipment from Warren Valley to Inkster Valley or vice versa. So it really is, there's not a sharing of equipment, personnel, and so it'll be quickly, we'll be quickly able to divide as to what is what. However, he's got to, in some way, alter his arrangement with the county because he's only going to operate 1 golf course now, not 2.
And he has 1 fee arrangement, so
Yeah.
we have to work out an apportionment with regard to that with the county.
That was the point of the question. You're talking about a single person who's going to operate 2 golf courses,
He already is, yeah.
and we're buying into that. Or if you'd rather not answer that, leave it for a closed session, and we'll have
Well,
it
I
out.
think what I can say is that that's how they're currently operating.
And what's the time frame that has to undergo?
I think we should be able to, well, before we would come back to you, we'd have something understood. I already spoke to Mr. Ahmed, who is the Assistant Corporation Counsel, who's been working on this. Corporation Counsel Zina El Hassan has also worked on this considerably, been very helpful. I think we'll be able to work out those details, and I'm expecting it.
So right now, the same operator operates Inkster Valley, or Inkster Public Golf Course and Warren Valley, because they're both county-owned.
Under the same agreement with
Under
the
the same
county.
agreement.
Go ahead.
My personal preferences come with a clean slate. We have an operator, they have their own, whatever the situation is.
I agree.
The idea of settling for $90,000 a year, when you think about the county getting the first handshake at $90,000 per year for what they've done, it would be very easy for me to say we're shortchanging ourselves on a $90,000 potential for a positive result.
The facility's never been marketed the last couple of years at all.
And if I may,
Therein is going to take some, in my opinion, some brainstorming to get a person on board who is an employee of the city to oversight the activities of this facility. Otherwise, we will never come to a bottom of the file as to understand why there was a attitude that you couldn't make any money there.
my sense is, if I may, is that we should look at things as continuing in the kind of a status quo manner for the time being, and then especially since we're going to have a lull, presumably, unless we have temperatures like 90 degrees in the middle of December, have an opportunity to evaluate what we're going to do. The current operating agreement does allow the county, which we would be the assignee of the county, to terminate the agreement with the operator. So even though it's a certain length of an agreement, the county and the city as its assignee would basically be in a position to step into the same shoes. I'm not suggesting that that should happen. I'm just saying, as a matter of fact, I would say any talk of that would probably not be the best idea, especially in a public forum, because we may end up having a problem with our potential operator, who we may be very pleased with.
Okay.
Is he operating the hall also?
Yes.
Councilwoman Clayton?
Oh, no, thank you, Councilman Chairman. I think you answered all the questions. My question was about the extension due diligence. You said October 30th. And of course, reporting back study session to discuss the findings of the due diligence. I think you've covered that. And hopefully we can have that October 16th or the 23rd.
Middle of the month, 16th is the Tuesday. That's what I told everybody that they needed to provide and come to a meeting before the council.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those were my questions. I believe they've been answered.
And I think I'd be remiss in also saying if we didn't end up acknowledging the efforts of Commissioner Webb to help out, too.
I just want to state, because I probably will be off the council by the time this actually comes to fruition, but I would totally be opposed to anybody in the city being involved in running that complex.
Yeah.
We totally put it in
Operator, private
operator,
operator's hands.
right, and nobody in the city gets involved. This has happened before, and it does not work.
I agree
I agree.
wholeheartedly, but you will vote on it because at the end, we're planning on a vote at the second meeting in October, and that's where we're going to ask the council give us the authority to sign the purchase agreement and authorize the 1.8 settlement less the down payment.
Right, and basically what will happen is you will end up having a revised purchase agreement and revised lease. The only real things that are changing is a confirmation of the legal description, which is a little bit different because the original legal description said this is to be changed based on a survey. Well, the survey has been done by Wade Trim, and now we know where the right-of-ways are supposed to be cut out. So that will end up being included, and so we will need a vote with regard to that. We may need a vote on any sort of side agreements with the county with regard to the specifics on the assignment. And we are also going to need to end up being authorized. I will need to be authorized to review the documents and approve the documents and have the mayor sign them for purposes of closing. So we'll need to come back for a specific vote approving all of these things and authorizing this. And like the mayor said, probably mid-October is what we'd be looking at.
Getting real close.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Clayton?
real quick, the study session, would that be the time to talk about a conservation easement to protect the golf course from development?
I think there's already a conservation easement. Are you saying in terms
It
of
wasn't
actually
in the purchase agreement.
something that would lock? My personal feeling is that I would think it would not be something that we would contemplate at this point. I think that's actually not necessary. If we want to end up protecting things, the protection should basically be done by virtue of this body after we have the property. This body could end up having an ordinance, adopting an ordinance or some other sort of mechanism, as opposed to this body having something that's going to end up blocking in the city in the future if there ever is a need to end up doing something with respect to the property. And if the city council and the city administration agrees that that should end up being done afterwards, it would still have the ability to end up doing that. But I think it would just make things unnecessarily complicated from a transaction standpoint at this point.
Councilman Abdullah?
I just want to say I'm totally opposed to any type of language like that. And I'm going to tell you why I'm opposed to something like this. Because you don't purchase something and put conditions on yourself as a purchaser as to things you can't do. So when you're purchasing an entity, I mean, we could, obviously, any type of decision we make would have to be amongst all of us. But why would we want to put a condition where we can't do something in the future on ourselves? I totally disagree with that, because that limits as to what options we've got. Sure, keeping it as a golf course right now is a great thing, but if in the future, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is down the line, we want to do something, why would we want to, it's like a purchaser purchasing a house and putting a condition on themselves that they can't have 2 cars or they can't sell it in 2 years. A seller will do that to you.
Right.
So the county could possibly put that condition on us, but it would not make any sense for us to put a condition on ourselves.
Moreover, if we put a condition on ourselves, we would want it to be a condition that might be able to be revisited. If you end up putting it into a purchase agreement, then you find yourself in a position where you have this easement, then the county ends up holding it, and we end up holding it, and then we're potentially stuck with not being able to ever change anything.
Correct.
You don't want the county having a say after we purchase it.
Mr. Chairman, then I would hope that we would look at doing it by ordinance afterwards, because the reason we're telling people we're interested in purchasing this golf course was based on the premise of protecting all the surrounding neighborhoods from flooding and the true ways to avoid development there. So that is something that I look forward to having a conversation about.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, also from Mayor Pletko, appointment to the Board of Review.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Horvath.
I move that we concur with Mayor Pletko for the reappointment of Hassan Hamad of Highview in Dearborn Heights to the Board of Review, term to expire July 2020.
Second.
Second by Councilman Abdullah. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 9A, reports from city officials, from Treasurer John Riley, budget amendment.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilwoman Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve Treasurer John J. Riley II's request for the Treasurer's Office budget amendment as outlined in 9A.
Second.
Second by Councilman Kozinski. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, from Administrative Assistant Christine Laszlo, Metro Act permit for Verizon Access Transmission Services.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Horvath.
I move that the council permit or authorize the clerk and the mayor to sign the document, Metro Act permit for Verizon Access Transmission Services have the clerk and the mayor sign this document, and the city to accept the check in the amount of, whoopee, $500.
Second.
Second by Councilman Abdullah. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, from Public Service Administrator Bill Zimmer, 2017-2018 road salt contract change order.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kozinski.
I move the council agree with Administrative of the Public Works Zimmer to approve change order number 1, having to do with a salt purchase arrangement for road distribution of salt contract for the period of 2017-2018. Costs amount to $30.97 per ton, which is, with emphasis, $11.40 per ton less than previous year.
Second.
All according to 9C dated 9/18/17.
Second.
Support by Councilwoman Horvath. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Director Zimmer. 1140, that's quite, I don't recall, I know in the past it hasn't been, they haven't raised it, but that's quite a number.
That's a decrease. And the previous year, we also were decreased about $10 a ton.
Was it? Okay.
We had the one year where we had the major storm. Most of the stockpile had been used, so consequently the next year they had to mine more, so the price went up.
Okay, thanks.
I just want to point out that based on current use, that's savings of roughly $27,360, so.
Yeah, right.
Pretty good. Good job, Bill.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 9D, from Public Service Administrator Zimmer, E&N Cement Company contract extension.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Horvath.
I move that the council approve the 3-year extension with E&N Cement with from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2021, with a 2% increase per year for materials and labor costs as outlined in 9B.
Second.
Second by Councilman Kozinski. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Councilman Abdullah.
So I had a question for Director Bill Zimmer. And I'd never heard anything bad about ENN Cement, but I'm just curious, just to clear up my mind, why we would not put that out for additional proposals from other companies if there's a possibility, and I'm emphasizing the word possibility because I don't know, you'd know better, possibility of savings, from other companies bidding on this.
I do research the cost for other communities. One of the perks that we have with ENN is that they are dedicated to our city for the entire construction season. That's one of the things that's hard to do, to find a contractor that's willing to do that. Number one, ENN's knowledge of our streets is just, they know like the back of their hand.
And you feel their prices are very competitive?
They are very competitive. Actually, I had Mr. Brooks look up the city of Southgate. I looked on the new BidNet system, trying to do some comparisons. A lot of the companies that bid that factor in equipment, sand, stone. It's not a solid number that you can really make a good comparison with it. So they are actually cheaper than the contractor that the city of Southgate is.
And how long have we used them for?
Many years, as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
But they are, we'd be lost without them.
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 9E, from Deputy Recreation Director Constant, Smart Municipal and Community Credit Contract for fiscal year 2018.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kozinski.
move council concur with the recommendation of Kim Constant and engage the city in a arrangement with a municipal community credit system program, allowing $56,810 for the program for the benefit of the city, and the contract should be signed in 3 copies by the mayor and the city clerk.
Second.
Second by Councilman Abdullah. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on the agenda, item 9F, also from Deputy Recreation Director Constant, equipment disposal.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kozinski.
move council concur with Deputy Parks and Recreation Director Kim Constant for the disposal of city assets, more specifically equipment that is no longer useful, indicated in item 9F dated 9/18/17.
Support.
Support by Councilwoman Clayton. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Horvath.
I've been dying to ask this question for 23 years. Why do they have to come to the council to ask to get rid of it? Can't they just send a note saying, I'm getting rid of it?
I think we have to prove, if we're getting rid of city property, let's say it's a car or a whatever, we have to prove it because it's an expenditure of sorts.
So have we ever said no?
No, but I think it's in the city charter.
Yeah, it is.
Any
I don't know
property
exactly
transfer.
where, but
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the council is settled down with the responsibility of authorizing purchases for the equipment, so there has to be a paper trail, even though for some of these expensive assets that Kim has just recently authorized.
There was a housing commission in the area, and they found out that the director, when they were getting rid of the metal and different things from the public housing, was taking it to a scrap yard and pocketing the money from in his own pocket, and it was investigated by HUD and everything. So yeah, disposal of assets is
Critical. Copper and brass command a good price these days.
Most of the things that we dispose of, I'm sure gets transferred right to the Henry Ford Museum.
Usually going through about 8 departments before we're getting rid of it.
We utilize things till it won't work anymore.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. That ends the regular business portion of our meeting. Any announcements?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilwoman Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to give everyone advance notification that there will be a town hall meeting on Monday, October 23rd, 7 p.m. at the Carolyn Kennedy Library. The subject is opioid situation critical. It includes guest panelists from Access, the Community Coalition, as well as Beaumont Health Systems, Taylor Teen Services, a representative from the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, and Higuera Social Services. So they'll be presenting as well as having resources available and answering your questions. I think it's a very important subject that the community, we should have a conversation on and bring resources. Many of those groups that I just named are doing a lot of work in this field to reach out to people, of which I'm very grateful for their efforts that they're doing to outreach in the community and educate. But it's important to bring the resources forward and increase awareness on a very important subject. The last item I have is more for follow-up purposes. On August 22nd, City Council meeting, our regular business meeting, there was an item on the agenda which was the Plant Moran Creasic contract, which is the real estate consultants of Plant Moran, that division. And throughout the contract and the scope of work was language regarding redevelopment, development, site project manager, specs for materials, etc. And after considerable communication among the council and discussion, the motion was amended, and it was Councilwoman Horvath that made the motion. Councilman Berry supported it, and was voted unanimously to have the language stricken out of that contract. So I wanted to follow the line of how that went forward, and found out that the original contract was submitted for signatures and it was not changed or amended. And that brought some concern to my mind, because as a council, we have a responsibility when contracts come to us. I'd like to see them in final version. There should not be, we're going to go with and say, well, contingent upon the corporate attorney's approval and review. It should be the final version before we actually vote on something and approve it before it moves forward. Because certainly you would not sign a contract to have your roof done without having everything outlined and finalized in the contract.
Right. And often we decide that what's a standard contract to have it reviewed by Corporation Counsel. And I'm familiar with what you're talking about. Corporation Counsel, do you have any?
My recollection on this is that the issue was raised, and the what I indicated is that the text should be stricken through because that's what the motion required, as opposed to that the agreement would be revised to reflect the language being stricken from it or deleted from it. Rather, the language should be stricken from it. And that was what my advice was, and I'm assuming that it was followed. In other words, if what the council said, striking the language shall be stricken, there was X's or cross-outs through that. And we do that, Bob. I'm sure you've done it, and I'm sure Councilman Abdullah has done it as well, where you just say, okay, this is not going to be in, and use a ruler.
Judgment's a divorce, everybody initials
exactly,
it.
and then people initial from there. So, or if they need to, but I think that that's not necessarily the best way to do it, but I think that was what was required by the motion that was passed. And so that's why I ended up advising that the language should be stricken and should be shown as stricken through, as opposed to the document revised.
I think we all agree, and there was a couple sections to be stricken. It's just a matter which individual was going to strike it, be it the Corporation Counsel, the clerk's office, or whatever, just so it was accurate in connection with whatever the motion is. There is.
Yeah, and if it was, it should have been ended up being stricken physically. I mean, that's what should. If someone wanted me to come over and oversee that process, I would be willing to do so if that's what either the mayor, the clerk, or the council wanted me to do. But as I understood the motion, I think that was what was intended.
And make
Mr.
sure
Chair.
Plant Moran is in agreement with that. Councilwoman Clayton?
So that is correct with the motion, and that's what you had advised. I guess now my next question is, how was that contract submitted for signatures then? Because
I do not
my
know.
understanding the language was not
I
stricken.
do not know. I was not involved in that.
Go ahead.
The contracts are always submitted to the clerk's office before the council meeting. We don't have ones that are submitted after the council meeting. And Gary's correct, and there was a question, I don't know if it's worked out or not, but there's not like, you vote on something, the clerk's office has the original.
So Corporation Counsel, you'll make sure, can you make sure that the
Yeah,
final language on the
Let's
contract
not make a mountain
is?
out of a molehill. It's just a matter, we'll ask Gary to strike out, and then that'll be the
Get
thing that we
with,
get signed.
And I'll be here tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So I'll try to make sure I stop by the clerk's office if that's what we need
All
to
right,
do.
thank you. Any other announcements?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Abdullah.
Just a little one. On my way to the South Dearborn Heights Neighborhood Association meeting, I decided just to stop by Chief Brogan's fire station there on Telegraph. And I just want to give a shout out to the guys and gals, I assume they're. I was very impressed with the cleanliness, very impressed with the camaraderie that they had between each other, and it had what looked like some pretty good food. So, but unfortunately, I was on my way, so I couldn't. So I just popped in on them, and I said, "I'm sorry for popping in, but I've always wanted to check out the fire station." So I just wanted to give you guys kudos. I mean, great job there. So I just want to say good job.
They
Continue
got some
doing
of
that.
the best cooks in town.
I mean, it looked good. Yeah, it looked good. I had dinner waiting at home, but yeah, so it looked pretty good. Plus, I had to get to the meeting, but just want to say great job.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Councilwoman Hicks Clayton. The meeting that's going to take place Monday, I believe,
October 23rd.
Who put that together?
I did, as council member.
And, okay, I have nothing else to say.
So, Mr. Chair, could I get a clarification? What meeting?
About the
On the
opioid
opioids.
epidemic and the different people coming in.
Should not be a problem.
I would
Community
think
outreach.
that, although I won't go, I can't go, in the what we talk about transparency and open discussions and no closed sessions and so on and so forth, when you put something like this together, you would notify the rest of the council that you're putting it together, and
Absolutely.
I don't have anything to
Yeah.
contribute to it, but maybe somebody else does.
So it's not a function of the city, but as a courtesy, I would absolutely invite, and you will get
But it
invitations.
is a function of the
Not
city
really,
because
no.
We've been
It's-
discussing it.
It's a,
All
no,
right,
we haven't
please.
discussed it. It's a function as a council member to offer a service, and bringing resources forward is something that I chose to do. However, it is not a function of the city, and however, as a professional courtesy, you all get invitations, and tonight there's an open invitation to the community, the residents, as well as council members, but that's officially an announcement, and the official rollout through correspondence will be happening through the rest of this week. Because of the timing of this meeting, it was an opportune time to announce and share it with our residents, to give them advance notification of something that's very important to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other announcements? Clerk Walter Persevich?
If I could just address real quick on that, Marge and the rest of the council, we've been in discussion with FBI, DEA on a proposed meeting also. So we have one set up, and that's kind of through the city. And the FBI will be coming in, the DEA, the prosecutor's office. That is going to be Monday, October 16th. But we're going to have flyers, and that's at the Richard A. Young Center. And that's put on by this outside agency, and it's called Chasing the Dragon. It's a Dearborn Heights Community Opiate and Opiate Forum. So we'll discuss that a little later. That was just kind of finalized the other day. We've been in discussion with that for a while, and they'll be the 16th. So we'll get some flyers and pass that out too.
Clerk Persevich, go ahead.
The election is coming upon us quicker than we realize, I guess. We just got the ballots. We're in the process of processing ballots. Our target mail date is a week from Thursday, which I believe is October 5th, if anybody...
That is for the 5th.
Thank you.
Setting a court date today.
Thank you for verifying that date. We've always met our target dates in the past. Barring a calamity, we will be mailing them out. So before we meet again here, or you see us on TV, the ballots will be out. They normally arrive within a couple days. I do caution people that the mail is a mail, and sometimes Mrs. comes in on Friday and Mrs. comes in on Monday. Give us a week from the mailing date if you expect one and have asked for one before you call and tell us you haven't gotten it. But after that week, certainly call us at 791-3432. If you have not applied, those applications are available by calling our office. They're available by going online. There is a link to the absentee application through our website in the elections section of the clerk. For candidates, we will be coming out with our informative email very shortly. I had some few issues to finalize before we put that together, so you should be seeing that very shortly. For our poll workers, those of you who watch my instructional videos, we have a new and improved video on the handicap machine, and our camera person, I want to give kudos. She worked with me and just did a wonderful job putting together this instructional video, and that's available through the clerk's website, and there's a link to that. So, Angela, I want to thank you publicly. You did a wonderful job in working with us. Any other questions, please feel free to call. We're always available to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman? Just a real quick one. A person at church asked me about doing a request for an AV. If I see him next Sunday and sign it, I would never touch a ballot, but application to vote AV is okay to hand to you? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you just need to sign it that you brought it in for him and that he couldn't bring it in himself.
Okay.
It's advisable that they mail it in themselves, but...
Yeah, he's been ill, but he, for the first time I've seen him in church in some months, but he asked me about it, and I said, well, you can get the application on the computer, but it seemed to be overwhelming, and he said, can you get one for me? So, okay.
Yeah.
Not a ballot, but an application.
Councilwoman Horvath?
Okay, in a few weeks, let me step back. Sitting at home not doing much and thinking about the city and stuff, I got to thinking about the flooding in Texas and the flooding in Florida and all over. So I called our emergency manager, Robert Ancrap, and we talked for quite a while about emergency management, what was happening, how we're going to be informed, so on and so forth. And he's got a number of items that eventually he's going to bring to council and bring us up to speed on what he's doing and what our emergency management situation is. I called him on a Monday, I believe it was, and when I talked to him, I said, we're not going to have a flood here, but we could have a tornado or we could have a plane drop off the sky. The plane has been a discussion since day one, falling down. Well, lo and behold, the next day, a plane dropped some stuff down.
Spirit Airlines plane.
Here we are. So he's going to bring us up to speed on, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm depending on him to bring it to the council and let us all know what's going on.
Great.
The other two possibilities, Mr. Ancrap has brought to my attention is one would be surprised at the amount of tankers and chemicals that transfers US 24 and US 12. And in an accident, there always is the exposure, plus the railroad tracks also presents problems. But correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ancraft, but those are all possibilities, and it's built into our plan that you work on constantly.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, you never say never about things. The likelihood is very, very slim of some things like that happening. But as Marge mentioned, airliner goes over, drops something out. Things happen.
Well, we had the tank, if you remember, at Telegraph and Ford.
Yeah.
That was about 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah, so he's worked through situations, and also we have, at one time we used to have the council more involved, and we had there's this, an area in the Justice Center that if for some reason we've gone to the extent that that's the backup for City Hall in an emergency, or if something was to happen to that building, then we would utilize the City Hall. So those are contingency plans. And then we had the department heads, some council members were involved to take a role as part of the plan. So
I walked through that particular room. We probably need some updating on that a little bit.
Big time.
Yeah, me and the chief walked through it, and looks pretty old.
yeah.
Well, that's a pretty, it's pretty, I think, sophisticated room. I call it the war room.
Just for your information, we just took delivery not too long ago on a batch of new laptop computers in there. And the Dearborn IT folks are going to be coming in there in the next few weeks to get them up and running, get all the software loaded, things of that nature.
Anyone else at the table? Any other announcements?
If I could just say one other thing, Angela just pointing that microphone just brought something to mind. If members of our audience or our department heads are talking, when you talk on the mic that Angela has, that transmits to the television. However, that does not pick up, we're not tied together with our recording, so it would be preferable to talk at the mic so we have that. You know, I think if we talk on the mic, both the television could hear it and we would have a recording.
Talk at the podium.
Right. So that,
Good to know.
when you were pointing that just brought to mind. So just a consideration that we've reviewed recordings before, and if you are not talking into the mic, we don't know what's being said.
Any other
Mic
announcements?
on that side, is that,
Yeah.
They both work.
is that tied to the,
Yeah.
Sounds like it is. That's good to know, good to know. Mr. Roberts, you have a... This is Steve Roberts, our co-chair of the Watershed Stewards Commission.
Hello, everybody. October the 14th, 8:30 in the morning at Richard A. Young Center, we have 3 rain gardens. We're trying to get them straightened up, so we're asking for help from anybody that wants to do gardening on that day. Thank you.
And the Honor Society students will
Honor Society students always come because they
Will be sort of
made the date.
force helping oversee and their teacher
Yeah.
the cleaning up of the rain gardens.
Trying to teach them the value of a garden. Hopefully everybody learns the value of a garden because that helps the flooding that's in this area.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Any other announcements?
Move to adjourn.
Please, we got it.
Public
We have
comments?
residents.
Public comment?
Oh. Sorry, Jack.
About a month ago, during a staff meeting in my department, it was suggested by one of the ordinance officers that they didn't want to be viewed as the guy coming down the street that everybody doesn't want to see. So, and in the course of this conversation during the staff meeting, they said that there's a lot of folks doing things that are going above and beyond, and so they came up with, collectively as a group, they came up with something that we wanted to do. I talked to the mayor about it. He said absolutely, especially since the beautification committee has not been active. So they came up with something called the Bravo Award. And basically, we're not asking for people to solicitate nominees or anything. These are the ordinance officers out on the streets every day, noticing people that are going above and beyond when it comes to property maintenance and things at their property that they're doing. It's not the houses that have the most flowers or the most expensive landscaping. It could be just someone that gets out, every week, edges their property, takes that extra effort to pick up some garbage that might be in the street, those kind of things. So they'll be randomly doing that, and these folks will get just a flyer from our department regarding it being recognized. And so we actually started today. We officially issued our first Bravo Award today. So I also wanted to mention the Telljoy Shopping Center is going to be doing their annual trunk or treat again this year. It's October 28th, starting from noon to 2. It's open to anybody. They're definitely looking for folks that want to be a trunk that day. You can come and, it started as a concept. The manager of the Telljoy Shopping Center was trying to stimulate some attention to a lot of the businesses in the area around the Telljoy area. So he's opening it up to any business, anyone that wants to come that day. They sponsor a couple different schools. One of them is Global Academy on Joy Road. All the kids from that school are invited to come. It's from noon to 2 on October 28th. I don't have the new phone number. If you want to participate, I'll try at the next. I'll remind you I'll bring the phone number at the next meeting, or you can send me an email if you're interested.
Jack, tell them how it works. Tell them you bring your car loaded with candy.
Yep.
And the kids trick or treat.
Yeah, so a lot of folks come and they decorate their cars. We get a lot of businesses. It's a great way for businesses in Dearborn Heights to promote their business. They back their trunks up, similar to what a lot of the churches started doing, and kids walk around. Last year, I think we had 23 or 24 vehicles that were involved. They have other events that he does there. There was a clown that came every year. She's very popular. Unfortunately, I just found out this week that she passed away unexpectedly. Oh, no. So they're in the process of looking for someone that can replace her. And it's a great event. It brings out a lot of folks. It's a great way to promote your business or just be a part of a community activity in Dearborn Heights. And they're really excited to do it every year. All the members of their particular board that own that strip there, they're always really excited to do this. And Mark Sobel, who's the manager and also an attorney, he usually dresses up in crazy costumes, and he enjoys doing that. So, and then the last thing I wanted to mention was at the study session last week, they were talking about the Van Born corridor, and several people, Councilman Muscat was the one that brought it up, and then several people concurred with him that Roberto's should not be touched, that they're a very popular destination for a morning donut. So I'm not sure where they're at.
Right here.
Okay, so
I've let him know. I've already posted for him.
So Roberto's got word that they were mentioned. They felt really excited that we were mentioning them, and they're proud to be part of. They feel they're part of our community as well. And so they brought a lot of donuts for everybody that was here tonight, but they wanted to make sure Ray Muscat got a donut for sure. So Councilman Muscat.
Been there over 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Traded Ray Muscat for donuts.
There they are in his seat.
Trade.
For for right now, if you just want to email me, I'll even do them at the work email. Mark's got a new phone number that he wants folks to comment.
It's an attorney, Mark. He'll be listed with the State Bar of Michigan, Mark Sobel.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's posted on our city website. It's already got the contact. We have already put it on our city website. So his.
So I got it right here if you want it.
Sure.
Yes.
359.
359. 00. 20.
That's 313.
313 area code. So if you want to be involved that day, just call, leave a message with Mark, or talk to him directly, and hopefully you can come out that day and support a good community event. So, thank you.
Yeah, he's an excellent bankruptcy attorney. Any other announcements? Any other announcements? Any other announcements? All right, none. Any residents who want to come up and state your name and the street you live on?
Suzanne Todd, 4011 Academy Street. From the discussion tonight, it sounds like nothing's going to be done to the golf course except to leave it as a golf course and a banquet center. And this is good because that will keep the people that live in that area from flooding. However, I'm concerned because on August 22nd, Plant Moran Cressa proposal was passed by this council, striking out all the language that would be referencing development or redevelopment. Now, this is on the first page of the proposal. PMC, which is Plant Moran Cressa, understands that Dearborn Heights is currently considering the feasibility of a potential purchase and redevelopment of the Warren Valley Golf Course, its facilities, and the 250-acre site located at 26116 West Warren Street in Dearborn Heights. Dearborn Heights has requested PMC to assist and advise the Dearborn Heights on the key parameters of the property, particularly in the review of the feasibility and assessment needs for a redevelopment proposal. Now, this is going to cost the city $30,000 to do this. My question is, why are we paying $30,000 to look at redevelopment or development when it has been stated that it is going to remain a golf course and a banquet center?
We're not looking at any redevelopment. In fact, they're on a per diem hour basis, so...
So what they have written here is false?
Let me finish. The cost will be considerably less because the only thing they're dealing with is the due diligence financially in regard to the purchase.
I thought we already paid that with the $80,000 that we paid them.
Paid who?
Plant Moran.
80,000 was Wade Trim, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not Plant Moran, Wade Trim.
There's 3 due diligence phases. 80,000 was for a survey, which it's a good thing we did because we would have found out we were buying also Noller Bend, and there's also some instances as it relates to the right-of-way with Edward Hines Parkway.
Okay.
So that was money very well spent, had to be spent. You got to know what it is you're purchasing. That had nothing to do with Plant Moran.
Okay, so but why do we have Plant Moran Cressa? Why are they doing another survey for redevelopment? I mean, it says right there, right? This is the first page of the proposal.
Well, earlier in the meeting, the council motion accepted the agreement with crossing out aspects. Mr. Miyake will come in tomorrow and cross those things. I'm telling you, when we went Thursday, all it dealt with was what is there currently and the operation continuing as a golf course and a banquet center.
And to clarify, it's not, they're not doing anything survey-wise.
I'm not talking about survey.
But essentially, what you're saying makes it sound like there's an overlap between the services and there's not. There's a financial.
It says redevelopment.
There's the financial due diligence, which is what they've been working on, and I've been involved in those communications as well. And then there's the survey work and the title work that I'm going to be looking at and have looked at, and I don't see any problem with that right as of this time. I don't expect.
But it says potential purchase, which is good.
Potential purchase is what they're working.
And redevelopment of the Warren Valley Golf Course.
Yeah, but
redevelopment.
There was a motion that was adopted by the council. Whatever words were supposed to be stricken, I will come in and physically strike those words. And my understanding is that those words were "and redevelopment." I don't know what the rest of it was, but we'll play back the tape from the council meeting if we need to, and those words will end up being stricken.
Okay, but they weren't stricken the first time.
They weren't, they were provided, there was a motion that was made.
Yes.
And then the motion basically ended up saying that those words should end up being stricken.
That is correct.
And those words are going to be stricken.
But they were not when this motion was tried to be signed.
Right, well.
I just want to clarify that. This motion almost went through if somebody hadn't caught it, with the redevelopment words in it.
No, you're making, once again,
No, I'm not making
very
a...
clear, and the attorney has been absolutely, the role that Plant Moran is doing has been discussed both with the city attorney and myself, and it's very clear. It's all dealing with the purchase. It has nothing, there's no intent for a redevelopment.
Councilman Kozinski, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if you ask 7 different people about their definition of redevelopment, you're likely to get variations of what is being suggested here. In my opinion, redevelopment is an improvement or an upgrade of the present facilities that now exist. That's redeveloping something that already is in existence. If you want to talk about new development, that's another dog. So there might be a play on words here that might be highly advantageous for information or publicity that somebody wants to present. But in my book, I've never understood that parcel would be ever redeveloped except to improve or redevelop its present facilities.
Yeah.
It also says in here of development proposal plans.
Okay, well, so the language is going to be changed.
I don't understand the point of this whole conversation.
The point of this whole conversation is, Mayor, that I lived in the South End for 52 years, and we were flooded because someone turned the floodplain of the Ecorse Creek into buildings. I don't want to see that happen. So this language of development and redevelopment, it bothers me. It's not going to cause me any more flooding in my area because we already have it. But God forbid if somebody sneaks in and tries to develop on that property, those people are going to be in worse shape than we are because they have 3 sewage interceptors coming from all the cities west of Dearborn Heights, North Dearborn Heights. That property is developed. Those people are going to be worse off than the people.
I totally agree. That's why I recommended
he's asking me. I got to answer him.
I recommended the purchase of the property.
Well, then go stand behind him then, and I can talk with you.
Right.
This is what I am worried about, because you, in the last candidates forum, said that you wouldn't have any problem if there was development on parts of the...
Should not be getting into anything having to do with what was stated at candidates forums in those terms. I mean,
okay, fine.
Again, it gets into the question of politicking, and there's a question under state law with respect to using these facilities for that purpose, except if there is going to actually be a candidate forum, and then it can end up being sponsored by the city. But other than that, we're treading in an area that we're not supposed to be treading.
Okay, that's interesting. Somehow those...
It's something that I basically have stated before and tried to interrupt you.
Okay, but why is it when it's to your advantage or to
No, what he's talking about, Ms. Todd, is that...
Okay, strike that I said about the... But people in the north, if something sneaky is going to be done, they're going to be the ones to pay for it. I just want them to know that. Redevelopment, development, it means one thing.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Suffering from dementia.
Anyone else? You've got to come up to the microphone, sir. Up to the podium, please. State your name and the street you live on.
Thank you.
My name's Ron Frenzy, and I live at 6241 Fairwood. And just have 2 questions. The two problems. One is my neighbor has this tree that's roughly in his backyard. This is just a personal kind of question. He's got a large tree in his backyard that's 50% dead. Back in May or June, we had a windstorm, and a large branch came down and punctured a hole in their garage, and then they chopped it all up and put it on the side of the garage. Okay, and currently there's a large branch that overhangs my garage. So I've been trying just the past month really to see if I could get the neighbor to chop down the tree. Well, the problem is it's a rental house. So what happens is the ordinance department, which is good, they put up a sign. They take a tape and they tape a sign on the door that you should, move this large branch over the tree or cut down your tree. But if you tape it, then the wind could blow it around. You should really talk to the people living in the house directly. Right? It seems normal. But also the problem is it's a rental house. So the people that are in the house now, it doesn't matter to them because they don't own the property. So also, where they chopped down this tree, where a branch fell down, they chopped down the branches and they piled up alongside the garage. Well, last month I spotted 2 large rats on this pile where they're setting up housekeeping. Who knew it was a Mr. and Mrs.? Because now there's 4 baby rats. And the people that live there have a 3-year-old kid and a 6-year-old. So if they're playing on this pile of sticks, which little kids would do, they could get bitten and they could have a huge hospital bill. So that's...
Dr. McIntyre,
And then also behind the house too, they have about 50 or 60 feet of vine that are on the cable TV lines. Half of them are dead, so that poses a fire hazard because their garage is right next to it. And the other half are alive, and that poses a weight problem because the line could come down and all the neighbors in the whole area would have no cable TV.
Let's let Director McIntyre answer your question.
To the first point about posting something on the door, if it's a rental property, we have to post on the door as required with the ordinance. But in addition to that, if it's a rental property, we send a letter to the owner so that the owner has been made aware that something's been posted at the property, whether it's for grass or blight or not having a certificate of occupancy. A letter is sent out from our department so that even if it blew off and the tenant didn't let the owner know, we send a letter from our department so that the owner is aware of the issue. I'm aware of this. I know Officer Stein was working on this. We're referring it over to DPW to have them evaluate the tree to see if it is necessary for the tree to come down. If DPW determines that if the director, under the ordinance, he can make that determination.
Who's the director?
Pardon me?
Who's the director?
I think you've met him before, Bill Zimmer, the DPW director.
Okay.
If he determines that the tree is not safe and it needs to come down, then a letter goes out to the owner telling them that they're going to have to mitigate the tree and remove it.
What if they don't? What if they just say, I'm not cutting it down?
The city is authorized to end up having it removed and putting it as a lien against the property.
Okay.
We've done that.
Yep,
and Mr. Zimmer and I routinely end up going over these letters.
Okay. Because I was talking to some people at the ordinance department, and they said it could take a whole year before all this goes through this ordinance process, and then it goes to the courts.
It sounds like they're already looking at it, and it sounds like they've already been out there, and the DPW director is going to have somebody look at the tree to see if the whole tree needs to come down.
And that's the other kind of unfortunate thing is I called his office the past 11, 12 days, left a message. Nobody called me back. And on Thursday I called, on Monday, yesterday I called, and there are so many messages on the answer machine, it doesn't work. You can't even leave a message.
But I believe the situation is this. So if everybody who calls, if DPW had to call everyone back, they'd be on the phone all day. So you call, you leave the message, and they go out and look at it.
But nobody calls me back. I don't know what the result is.
I have tried to call you several times, and then you left a message on my machine saying, call me between the hours of 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning. That's not a big enough window for me, okay? I need a little more time to get back with you. And I would have explained to you that we are looking into this. The ordinance department gave this resident or the homeowner 30 days to look at it. That expires this week. Now we'll proceed further.
And it probably would, even though that sounds good, it would be helpful, like, all this information for me is good, but I didn't know all this.
We'll meet after the meeting, we'll go over this.
Well, actually, no, that's not true. This was explained to you by myself at my counter and by Officer Stein.
But they said it could take a whole year.
No, sir, that's not correct. We spoke with you at the counter.
I talked to the fellow yesterday. He says it could take a whole year to go through the court system.
Both Officer Stein and I both talked to you. We told you what the process was, that we're going to be referring it to DPW. They'll make a determination if the tree needs to come down. They have the authority to send a letter to them and mandate that the tree come down. If they don't take it down on their own, then we can, under the ordinance, we're allowed to take it down, and then we would be charged for it. That was explained to you.
And it does not take a year to end up doing that process. If you were asking questions about the process over at court, it also doesn't take a year for something to end up being done over at court. But this process with regard to trees that are hazardous is not that lengthy. Generally, the Public Service Administrator, Mr. Zimmer, ends up making an assessment. He may have to bring in an arborist to end up making that assessment. If he makes that assessment, then he prepares a letter. I've given him a form letter to end up working from. I normally end up taking a look at the letter. He sends the letter, and it's followed up on. So this is not some lengthy process. It does not take a year to end up dealing with. If you were informed by someone with regard to the process at court, sometimes some things might end up taking that long, not this type of matter.
Yeah, and
this
sir,
matter will be dealt with.
We can't keep going back and forth, and someone said it'd take a year, because we'll be here all night.
Oh, I know.
We have people who've been here since 8:30.
Well, that's okay. So roughly, if they have, like, the final thing is, if they submit a second notice on the house, say the end of this week or next week, what would you say, just a guesstimate, how long it will take before they get the tree cut down? One way or the other?
They were already given a 30-day notice. That notice ends this week.
Yeah, but they're going to get another 30-day notice at the end of this week, right?
The assessment is made by the Public Service Administrator. The Public Service Administrator has to determine the condition of the property, whether or not it requires immediate action. The length of time that he gives them is dependent on the condition of the actual tree and whether or not it is an immediate hazard. If it is not, then he does not have the authority to necessarily order it to end up being taken down. If it is, then he has the authority to do so, and normally there has to be sufficient amount of time given to them to basically take down the tree. If they don't take down the tree, then the city is authorized at that point to take down the tree.
But I just had one other question. A couple of months ago, I think Mr. Zimmer mentioned that in the Lewis Manor subdivision in October, they're going to do some more asphalt paving. Do you know when that will be? October 2nd. Okay.
October 2nd. Point of order. 3 minutes is way past.
Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you.
We don't do that anymore, remember?
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Thank you. Anyone else? Move to adjourn. Anyone else? Move to
Yes, we have one
adjourn.
more person.
Wait, someone's walking on.
Hi, state my name. My name is Ruth Roadman. And
Ruth, what was the last name?
Roadman.
Speak into the microphone,
Roadman.
Go ahead.
Okay. And address 6452 North Telegraph Road. There is, like, I guess you would call it, to include everything, rodent problem. There are rats, there are mice, and I've seen, what are those things, possums. And, you know, I one day, this was like months ago, I did just happen to see the animal control truck, and it was like about a couple blocks away. And I went and the guy laughed at me. He said, haha, we don't have any rat problems in the city of Dearborn Heights. And I said, well, you know, I was quite surprised to see them because I really thought, because I am from the suburbs, I thought that they only resided in Detroit, but I guess there's some that moved out to the suburbs.
Where's that address at on Telegraph, like between what?
Is it a house?
It is a Clock
commercial?
Motel.
What's
and
that?
Clock Motel. It's at Hass and Telegraph.
Okay.
Just north of the McDonald's.
Are you the owner by any chance?
No, I'm complaining about the vermin that they have. You know,
So you're a resident
I'm
there.
the complainer.
Okay.
I mean, it's not only me. I mean, like, I have a girlfriend that just recently has been staying there that I know from we rented houses some years ago. My fiance stays there with me. His boss, I was so ashamed. They won't even pick up the dead rats. They're laying on the parking lot. Okay, and his boss comes and picks him up. I mean, several people have, you know, like, you walk by and you go, you know, like, and they think it's a joke. These people are from India. Most of them do not speak hardly maybe a word they might catch of English, and there's certain ones that speak English, and it's like they don't give a damn.
The owners
I'm just
of the
being honest.
motel?
I'm sorry.
You're talking about the owners of the motel?
Yes, the management, and I've only seen the actual owner. He's only been there maybe once or twice. They use all these people they hire as managers, and most of them do not really speak English that much. And India has, like, you know, the religion in India. They actually, I've seen on TV, you know, through one of those, you know, programs that they have on different countries, the religion, they actually worship rats. They believe we'll be reincarnated, you know, into things. And
let's hear from.
They do not believe that they should get rid of them.
Right. Let's.
Okay, that's the problem, number one. And then when.
Hold on, please. Hold on.
We are in communication with the owners, and they're aware that there's some issues that they have to resolve there, and they're working towards doing that. And it was explained to them. I didn't have any communication issues with them, and they were told that this has to be resolved, and they're working on that.
So there's been some enforcement out there.
Correct.
Well, I kind of, like, there's only, I see maybe a couple of instances where they actually have done a couple of small things, but it doesn't resolve the issue. They put these, the whole city has decided to supply those blue, you know, garbage cans for people who own houses, for instance, okay? And they come with a lid, you know, that closes on top of it, attached to the handle like this, so you can't lose the lid. These people have actually purchased, I've seen them purchase, like, 2 of those garbage cans, not the blue ones, just the kind you get at, like, Home Depot or somewhere, right? And they're the old kind that people used to have, the plastic ones, and they have a lid, but it's not attached. They throw the lid out, or they got it stored somewhere else, and they leave them open. The garbage is piled over these things, and sometimes it's on the ground because there's so much of it, and they put them next to, like for instance, there's a pole and there's a cement base, okay?
Let's,
and the rats jump up on the base and get into the garbage like that. I've seen them.
With the ordinance director after the meeting.
And they did not get rid of these things. They do have one dumpster, and then it's like the smaller plastic ones, they don't get rid of them.
We'll meet after the meeting.
It's a continuing problem.
I'll understand. We'll hear the rest of your concerns. All right, thank you.
I've complained several times. Nothing has been done that much. I mean, they don't have any commercial,
we'll have to meet after the meeting.
Traps or anything.
All right.
Councilman, I have a follow-up with the management people this week, so I'm going to be following up with them.
I mean, they should just get rid of the plastic things. The dumpster's fine. You know, I don't know why they have them right next to where people walk on the pathway by the building. It's very, like, I'm afraid of them.
Yeah, and you should address those concerns first to the owners of the motel where you stay.
I have talked to, like, every person there. It seems like
we'll meet right after the meeting.
They don't care. They don't care. This is a problem.
Anyone else?
Move to adjourn.
Support.
Good evening, everyone.